Hey there, athletes. Coach John Ferry here from Team Wilpers. Excited as always to welcome you to our Week 1 athlete briefing for the Summer Run Challenge. Not sure what happened to the first half of this year, but here we are already going into summer. And let's talk a little bit about the main goals here of this challenge. So our main goal continues to really be to improve the result of that 20-minute distance test here over the course of an 8-week challenge. But for anyone who's been around a while, you certainly know we kind of have our sub-goals at this point we're working on, and this is no exception. So our sub-goal, if you will, is to continue to kind of bolster that 5K to 10K style of racing that's really prevalent at this time of year. So the way we're planning to do that, and hopefully kind of tackle that, is to go after a few different energy zones. So we're going to be including a lot of, we'll call it a tempo, which for the people way back when had a slightly different kind of meaning here. But tempo meaning kind of our zone 3 work, our marathon pace, our half marathon pace. We're going to be doing a real steady chunk there with our tempo pace, if you will. We're going to be doing a lot of mixed interval pace workouts. So what that means is kind of combination of different paces in a single workout, ranging really from threshold to anaerobic capacity. So that kind of higher end of the spectrum in those mixed interval workouts there. And then of course, we're going to be working our endurance energy zone, our absolute bread and butter of any training cycle, that endurance part of the equation here. So that's kind of our targets. So we're a little bit all over the place, which we'll talk about in a bit. Let me talk a bit about the website. So the website's very important, especially for people who are new to the program here. So the website is going to have your paces, which I'll loop back to momentarily. It's going to have your workouts for the week. And it's going to have everyone's favorite thing, the boxes to check to say, I did the workout. It's a little simple thing, but checking those boxes, chasing a 100% completion percentage over the course of the challenge is one, a victory in itself, and two, is the absolute best way you can put yourself in a position to be successful. Paces. So the paces provided on the website are going to be based upon the result of the 20-minute distance test. So you need to input that distance using the small gear icon on that pace box. And it's going to be not the pace of 20 minutes, but the distance achieved over a 20-minute distance test. Also, as I tried to indicate in the notes, you're welcome for those who tested recently to use a recent test result. Tend to say a recent test result is within about like 4 weeks. So if you tested in January, that's not so recent anymore. A long time has gone by since then. But so especially if you tested at the end of the last challenge and you felt happy about how that test went, feel free to copy that result over. And we're going to go into then your kind of option B workout. If you are kind of new to running or you're feeling overly nervous about attempting this test, then it is absolutely okay to estimate what you think your best effort distance would be over 20 minutes. Start there, maybe test at the end of 8 weeks. It's here to be helpful, to have fun, so don't feel stressed. It's just running. Additionally, very important, many of you raced within the last few weeks here. If you really have raced within the last, especially a week, but really 2 weeks, I'm not sure I would jump in and go after this 20-minute test quite yet. It's not the biggest, hardest effort of your life for sure, but you want to put yourself, once again, in a position to be successful, and coming in on relatively tired legs, not a great way to do so. So maybe kick the can down the road a little bit and try towards the end of this challenge. So let's jump into our week 1 workouts. So run number 1. I want to start with the 20-minute distance test. Two options here, obviously. Start with the 20-minute distance test. Many people are familiar, but for everyone who is not, we're going to talk about this a little bit. So this test, quite simply, is as far as you can run in 20 minutes. So it is a max effort. It's not designed to get designed to be a progression run where you get a little faster, get a little faster, get a little faster. It is a test to see how far you can run in 20 minutes. And your pace zones will then be a direct relation to, or a direct reflection more so, of that effort put forward into the test. So you can see kind of not really going full out on the test, you're going to have a negative reflection and your pace is not going to be super accurate for the challenge. So it's important that you do give it a good hard effort. This workout can be done, however, indoors, outdoors, on the track, on the road. The conditions don't have to be perfect, so don't overthink this. We'll get there in a little bit. What you want to really make sure you do is warm up well, make sure your body's nice and prepared to go into a good hard effort. You want to start pretty hard. You want to finish even harder, trying to push it right through to the 20-minute mark. And although, once again, you can having a negative split is no problem. That's a great thing to do over the course of a test like this. It is not, one more time, a progression run. So why performance testing? This is my once every 8-week time to talk about why we do performance testing. And it simply is the most accurate way to determine your current fitness and assign accurate and appropriate pace zones to right now. So it takes into account your running efficiency, your determination, general mental toughness, and then naturally pace as well. All things that need to translate to the pace you're actually running these workouts at. So why is this important? And really the answer is that we need to make sure we're meeting you where you are today. I think we've all made this mistake, probably as athletes, of having a pace, getting really fit, falling out of it, not adjusting the pace, trying to work back into that pace. It doesn't always go so great. It actually is a much more productive use of your time to reset, whether it's going higher, whether it's going lower, but either way, figuring out exactly what's appropriate for right now and working off of that pace. So it's not a problem if this isn't your peak fitness or your peak paces. What we're trying to do is measure where you are at as of today. So we'll talk about a few just quick things in terms of prepping for the test here. You want to rest up and give yourself a good shot at success. I know I touched on this a little bit. It doesn't behoove you to go into this in the middle of other hard workouts on tired legs when you're not well rested. So while you don't necessarily need to, take a half week off from work to get ready, you want to certainly give yourself a good shot at success. There's no need to overthink this. As I said, it can be done on all sorts of terrains, inside, outside, etc. Just need to start running, run hard for 20 minutes and see how far you went. No holding back, within reason. You have to give this a good hard effort in order to get the most out of it. The more you put into it, you're going to get the best, most accurate pace guidelines back out of it in return. So give it a nice hard effort. And then no real strategy here in week 1, okay? This is a baseline test. We're going to train for 8 weeks and test again. So these tests take time to build up to it. I like to tell a little mini story. I was having a conversation with one of our other Team Whoopers coaches recently, Coach Justin Harris. And we were talking about 5K styles of racing. What Justin said about it is he thought it took about 3 5Ks in close proximity within 5 or 6 weeks just to get the hang of the thing. So you're not going to be perfect the first time out. And you're probably not going to be perfect the second time out. It takes repetition to get better even at the test itself. So people know my opinion. Many people know my opinion on B races and building kind of secondary races into workout plans. It's very similar. It takes repetition to get good at it. So give yourself a little bit of leniency. Have fun with it. It's, we're here to learn. Option B. So if you have tested within the last 4 weeks, one more time, and feel good about the result, it turned out how you were hoping, you can use that last test result and run a progressive interval run. So obviously a riff on some of our sometimes typical progression run here. But the run is designed to take you through a myriad of pace ranges and really provide a good touch base to make sure that we're really optimized here on our paces to start the challenge. In addition, this is an awfully solid workout here to kickstart workout 1, day 1. So I think in general, definitely the intensity of week 1 is a little bit higher than what we've done in the past. And for this challenge, I think across the board, especially in the early weeks, it's going to be a little bit elevated than maybe what we've done historically. The reason being we have a lot of users, and thank you to all of you who are doing this, and good for you, that are going challenge to challenge to challenge. And what I don't want to have to see happen each time is for all of us to kind of have to reset back down to the shorter workouts, kind of do some of those things that are a pretty big drop off in TSS just to get back to where we were before. So we're going to use that baseline, kind of starting off on a little bit of a higher level. So that doesn't mean that the whole challenge has to be there. It just means that we have this built-in feature to be able to drop it down to a slightly easier level of workout in general, and don't hesitate to use it. If you're new to these challenges and need a little bit of easier workout, absolutely feel free to do that. If you've been out of consistent kind of speed work for a while, it actually is a much better, much more productive workout to use the easier version. It's going to be something that's a little bit more approachable. So absolutely use that option. If you're looking at it and you're feeling intimidated, don't know if you can go after these workouts early, it's there for a reason. We want you to utilize it. Run number 2. We have our interval run. As I mentioned, kind of mixed pace interval run. So part 1 of the workout. I'm going to touch on this now, and then I'll leave it alone for the next 7 weeks. Let's talk about pre-run mobilization. So we're going to have 2 different series of pre-run mobilizations over the course of the 8-week challenge. We basically have our calf, 3D calf matrix, which I believe we kickstart with this week. Then we have our lunge matrix, which I always think of as kind of like a hip opener matrix, one of my favorite pre-run activities. So these are very simple routines that are excellent for preparing your body to start running. They are simple routines, but they are very, very effective at keeping you a healthier, happier runner. So what I'm going to urge people to do now is don't be the runner that never warms up, gets hurt, and is then curious why they keep getting hurt all the time. It's because you're one of many possible reasons is that you're not preparing your body. See, most people are not preparing their body well enough to get ready to run, especially at this high intensity. I like to refer to it a lot. It's like we're taking typically a body at rest, out of bed, from the desk, whatever it might be, turning it into a body at motion. That doesn't happen automatically, and it doesn't happen quickly. And as years go by, for better or worse, it takes a little bit longer and a little bit longer. So those 4-5 minute pre-run mobilizations are things that are just critical and will be an absolute positive addition to any runner's routine. So I urge you to learn those pre-run mobilizations and use them often. Otherwise, the workout starts with kind of easy running in strides. Just a reminder, these strides are not high intensity intervals. They are not part of the workout part of the set. These are gentle accelerations that are designed to get you ready for the main set of the workout, where we're just kind of accelerating the fast pace. So if you're anything like me, my first strides might be quite a bit slower. I might start to get them a little bit faster as I go, one after another, because my body's getting warmed up. I'm getting more prepared. I'm getting more opened up in my stride. And so the final strides, I'm really expecting to probably have my best one on the last stride that I'm doing, where I'm maybe getting to my fastest pace. But it's very much part of the warm up, and you should think of it as such. Our main set here is a combination of threshold and VO2 max. So it's kind of a new thing. We haven't done a whole lot of this here in the last many years of challenge infrastructure. So a very reasonable question would be kind of why the mixed pace intervals. And what I would say is we're kind of in an interesting spot of the year right now where, when I'm preparing a lot of people, especially one-on-one or groups who have very specific goals in mind, right? We're going after this target energy zone before we go after that target energy zone, and we're trying to get ready for this season or that season or this season. But we're in a funny spot where we're kind of in the season, right? Like summer racing season has started. There are a lot of 5Ks, 5-milers, et cetera, happening right now. So we're not quite in a build-up period anymore. We're right in the middle of it. We also have some athletes that are moving really into the short distance racing season of summer, while we have a lot of other athletes moving towards and starting to do their kind of early season work for big fall half marathons, etc. The big endurance races coming up in the fall. And then plenty of runners that are just having a fun time being outside, spent all winter locked down inside, and now are finally back outdoors and having fun with it. So we've got a lot going on. So when our goals become a little bit more nebulous in this regards in terms of where we are right now, it's something we might consider doing these mixed pace workouts. So you can kind of be ready for a little bit of this, a little bit of that all at the same time. So if you're racing 5Ks, but ultimately are getting ready for the marathon, there's a good opportunity to kind of prep a little bit for both here. So as I previously mentioned, the kind of overarching goal of this 8-week block is to really be doing workouts that cater a lot to the 5K and 10K style of racer, but also are setting the stage for the endurance seasons to follow for the half marathoners and marathoners. Finishing the week out with our endurance run. This wants to look easy, feel easy, be easy, etc. Just another reminder, temperatures are rising over most parts of the country, so do not hesitate to slow these runs down. Even if it pulls you out of your easy pace range, that's one of your most effective and only options to really keep the effort nice and light. So it wants to be conversational, it wants to feel easy. So once again, don't hesitate to back off those paces a little bit. Let's jump into a few questions that came up. So question 1 is, what is the best way to practice engaging glutes and running, and how to warm up my glutes outside? So great question. I think this is something that is discussed a lot. It's become almost a little bit of a buzzword, if you will, of like engage your glutes, engage your glutes. So the key to engaging your glutes during running is to have strong glutes coming into the run. So it's my slightly snarky response, but there's not a way for you to consciously engage your glutes on the run. It's a gentle point of irritation with me, if you can't tell. It's your glutes are either engaging or they're not. And if they're not engaging on your run, 1, that's a big negative. You're losing a lot of efficiency. 2, the solution isn't to be thoughtful about it. The solution is you got to take yourself into the gym, into a PT office to do strengthening exercises to strengthen those muscles. So weight room intervention is the number one thing in terms of improving the kind of recruitment and firing of glutes during running. Mobility blocks can also really prevent the utilization of glutes in running. So for people out there with super tight hips, hip flexors, psoas muscle is a hip flexor, it can really lock down your body's ability to recruit that glute, which is such a powerful muscle. In essence, what happens when they don't engage is other muscles take over. So you've got your hamstrings and your quads that start to really carry a lot of the load. But unfortunately, they're much smaller muscles. They're not nearly as powerful. They're not nearly as efficient. And so you tend, if the problem's not corrected, you have those muscles that either tend to kind of wear down via excessive fatigue or ultimately lead to some sort of strain or injury. Our body's pretty good at sidelining us when it needs to. And that is ultimately, unfortunately, what tends to happen. So the big solve here all around is if you feel like your glutes are not engaged in the process, is a weight room intervention. You have to strengthen those glutes, both glute max, which really is like our up and down, kind of forward and back, and then our medius, which really controls a lot of our kind of left and right motion. We need both of those to be very strong to make sure we're running very efficiently and staying healthy. Did mention activators. So I think activating your glutes in advance of running is great, actually. So the immediate first thing that comes to mind is mini band routines. It's not a hard thing to slip into a pocket, even in a small run short. Monster walks, things of that nature is a great way to kind of get your glutes. In essence, they're not getting like fired up. They're not doing it. They're just getting warmed up and a bit activated before the run. So they're more engaged, more prepared to take on load. Otherwise, if you're sans device, you're trying to do this body weight exercises like donkey kicks, hip bridges, even body weight squats, really good things to do to, once again, warm up your muscles, kind of activate your glutes a little bit before you go into the main set of your run. And one final time, it's really, you're just preparing those muscles. You're kind of warming them up so that they are ready when you go into your more strenuous activity. So 2 quick questions that came in at the last minute, and I thought they were both worth mentioning and bringing up, but we'll be answering a little bit on the fly as I didn't see them until a couple minutes ago. So the first question is on increasing cadence. There was not a lot of context to this question, so we'll talk just a little bit about cadence, what increasing it means, etc. So The first thing I would ask always is, where is your cadence range? What are you looking to go towards? There is a magical number out there. I won't even say it of what is the ideal cadence, and it is ideal for some people and not ideal for others. So cadence in general, as with most form cues, if there's not an issue with injury, then I don't worry about it. You even see the best runners in the world now, form is something that they are starting to ignore a little bit more than they used to, for sure, especially if you have a very healthy runner that's been active and performing at a high level. The last thing you want to do is go in and start tweaking anything. However, if there's an issue of lower leg issues, stress-related issues from running, and there's very low cadence, that might create a situation in which it's worth the time, effort, and, to be quite honest, some frustration in starting to increase cadence. And so if I were to do a couple quick things on like the rules of it, if you will, is very gradual, incredibly gradual. This is not something that happens over days or weeks. This happens over months or years. And so just to use an example, if I have an athlete at 165 and I want them to be closer to 175, what we're doing is trying to probably spread that out 2 steps a minute over as much as like 10 to 12 weeks of time until we really start seeing that average come. What I would do initially is have just short periods of time, very short, 1 minute periods in the middle of easy runs, 2 or 3 times over the course of an hour, where they're focusing on maintaining a specific cadence that's like 2 or 3 beats higher, like I said. And we'll either use music with that beat, beats per minute. We'll use a metronome sometime to try to do that, and just incorporate it in very, very small blocks. Start to extend those out a little bit over the course of time. Make it 2-minute intervals, 5-minute intervals, 6-minute intervals. See it, how the cadence starts to evolve from there. Anytime you're thinking about changing the stride, you're giving up short-term efficiency. Keep that in mind. And sometimes, if that's worthwhile, if you, once again, have stress-related issues, you want to stay a healthier runner for longer, we'll give up short-term efficiency for long-term success. But that short-term efficiency drop is pretty much guaranteed. If you, one more time, if you have a low cadence but have been healthy for years and years and years, I would not suggest going and trying to change your stride just for the sake of hitting a certain number. I would stay exactly where you are and enjoy your experience, because I will tell you, it is a lengthy and frustrating process. Our final question here for this week is, I did the progression intervals run today. 90 degrees in South Florida, and retesting this weather would be pointless. Fair. Run itself wasn't hard, but the heat made me have to work harder, higher heart rate. So I guess my question is, how do I train the paces I know are appropriate for me, even though the weather makes it harder to maintain them? So great question. In essence, what we're looking at is how to adapt a very speed-related workout for the hot weather that we are having. And so a couple things here, maybe 2 things in particular, is there are great heat index charts out there of really good, kind of starting points of how to make adjustments. And so the Tinman, T-I-N-M-A-N, heat index chart is one that I reference often. It is very Googleable out there in the world. Once again, Tinman heat index chart is a nice kind of guide of how to adjust. What you will see on pretty much any heat index chart you pull is that those heat indexes really start to play a bigger and bigger impact over time. And usually I think on the Tinman says after 20 minutes in particular. So when I think about midsummer running, the longer the interval, the more impact of heat. So let's say the tempo work that we have coming up at the top of the week is going to be something that's a little bit harder potentially. And that actually, I would say, maybe it's worth making an adjustment in order to bring the effort down, maybe heart rate into alignment where it should be, naturally on better conditions. However, the shorter distance intervals, the threshold, the VO2 max, anaerobic capacity intervals, because the duration is a little bit tighter, you have less impact. You have that recovery really baked into the equation of those workouts. So hopefully you should actually be able to kind of stay with pretty high intensity there in general. The elevated heart rate in summer, it just kind of is what it is to an extent. while you definitely want to pull back in certain areas. And to be honest, some of the easy running is the best spot to pull back. That's you wanted the effort to be easy anyway. Long runs, recovery runs, easy days, pull that pace back as far as you want. Then those real tempo efforts when you're going after it, I think you make actually much smaller adjustments in that period in order to go after the quality of workout that you're looking at there. Definitely make sure to maximize the recoveries so that you give your heart rate a chance to kind of settle back down to normal. But just think about it. On the longer intervals, things that are 10, 15, 20 minutes beyond, we don't do a ton of intervals of that duration over the course of our challenge infrastructure. Those are ones you're going to have to really scale back. Things that are a little bit shorter, I think you're really able to take it to the limit, if you will. There will be we'll make an announcement on this, but we're going to do an all access presentation with myself and Coach Brian Hammond next week to talk about the impact on heat, both on running and cycling workouts in general here in the upcoming hot weather. So that should be, I believe, this upcoming Friday, 1 week from today, midday, if I'm not confused. But check back on the page here. That'll be coming out. Otherwise, friends, that is all for week 1. I'm very excited to be kickstarting this summer challenge. Thanks as always for being here, and I can't wait to see you again next week. Have a great one.